Shadows of the past, my unbreakable secret. They say some moments haunt you forever, sticking like silent shadows, always there. It's been 2 years since that day. 2 years since everything changed. It was supposed to be simple, a trip to the beach with my son Leonard. My husband, Phoenix, couldn't come. He never could. Work always came first, and I was used to it, used to being alone. But that day wasn't normal. Neither was that moment. Nor now. We spread out the beach towels. The sun was hot, maybe too hot. I lay down, feeling finally free from the noise of the world. I asked Leonard to help me rub oil on my back. I didn't think twice about it. He's my son, my boy. Why would I have? At first, it was nothing, just his hands on my skin. But then I felt it. I felt him linger, lower and lower. And I didn't stop him. Why didn't I? You think you know yourself. You think you know your family. But there's always a moment that can unravel everything. For me, it happened that day on the beach. And I've never been the same. Phoenix and I had been married for over 15 years. If you asked anyone who knew us, they'd say we were the perfect couple. A nice house, good kids, a stable life. But you don't see the cracks until you're inside the walls. You don't feel the emptiness unless you live it. For years, Phoenix's work was his world. He worked late nights, weekends, holidays. I told myself he did it for us, that the overtime and dedication were for the life he was building for our family. But after so long, that story starts to crumble. What's the point of a house if no one's ever there? I became invisible to him. When he came home, he barely looked at me. He stopped asking how I felt, what I wanted, what I needed. We spoke in short sentences, mostly about bills, groceries, and the kids. He loved Leonard and his little sister, I say, but even with them, his presence was like a shadow. He was there, but not really. I often sat at the table across from him, wondering if he still saw me. That morning, I remember standing in the kitchen as Phoenix rushed toward the door. He grabbed his briefcase, kissed the top of Isa's head, and looked at me just once. Sorry, Freya, I can't make it today. Something came up at work. I didn't even argue. I just nodded, like always, my throat tight. I told myself it was fine, Leonard, and I could go alone. Leonard was 16 back then, tall and lanky, with the same brown eyes as his father but a softer face. He didn't say much, even when I told him it would just be the two of us. I think he'd gotten used to his dad bailing too. He just shrugged, grabbed the bags, and followed me to the car. I glanced at him in the passenger seat on the way, earbuds in, staring out the window like all teenagers do. I couldn't help but smile. He was growing up so fast, and sometimes I wondered if I blinked, I'd lose him too. The drive to the beach felt endless. My mind wandered, as it always did, to Phoenix. I thought about all the things we used to do together. Movie nights, long walks, trips nowhere just for fun. I thought about the way he used to touch me, the way his eyes lit up when he saw me. I hadn't felt that in years. I hadn't felt anything. I was so tired of being invisible. We finally arrived, and Leonard helped me carry the bags to a quiet spot near the water. I spread out the towels while he set up the umbrella. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt the need to talk to him. Maybe because he was the only one there, or maybe I just needed someone to hear me. It's nice to get out, isn't it? I said, trying to sound cheerful. He just nodded, pushing his hair back with his hand. Yeah, it is. I lay down on the towel, feeling the sun's heat seep into my skin. I didn't move for a while. I just let go still, as if trying to lift the weight of the last few years off me, even if just for an hour. But then I remembered the oil. I turned to Leonard. Can you help me rub this on my back? I asked. I can't reach it myself. He looked at me for a second, almost hesitant, before taking the bottle from my hand. I lay back face down on the towel and waited. The first touch was gentle, cautious. His hands were uncertain, like he didn't want to hurt me. I smiled to myself because it reminded me of when he was little, when he'd hold my hand to cross the street. His hands were so small back then. "You can press a little harder," I said, my voice muffled. "It's fine." He listened, and his hands grew firmer as he spread the oil over my shoulders and down my back. I closed my eyes and tried to focus on the warmth, the rhythm of his touch. For a moment, I let myself enjoy it. It had been so long since anyone had touched me, and that thought hit me harder than I wanted to admit. But then I felt his hands slide lower, slowly, carefully, along the curve of my lower back. My breath caught in my throat, and I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. My mind raced, but I stayed silent. I told myself it was nothing, that he was just helping, that I was imagining things. But I wasn't. His hands hovered there for a moment, near the edge where my towel ended. I could feel his hesitation. I could feel mine. And instead of stopping him, I said, "It's okay. You can rub there too." The words hung in the air like something toxic, and as soon as they left my mouth, I knew I couldn't take them back. Leonard didn't say anything. He didn't stop either. I squeezed my eyes shut tight and felt his hands on me, lower than they should have been. My heart pounded so hard I thought he could hear it. I wanted to move, to sit up, to tell him to stop. But I didn't. I couldn't. I let it happen. Even now, I don't know why. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe I was too desperate to feel desired, even if it was wrong. Or maybe I just didn't care anymore. That day on the beach, everything inside me broke. And nothing would ever be the same again. If you've made it this far in the story, thank you for sticking with me. I know it's not easy to hear, and I appreciate you listening. If you find this video interesting or think someone might relate to what I'm sharing, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps me keep sharing stories like this and lets me know I'm not alone here. Okay, back to the story. After that day at the beach, something changed. I couldn't ignore it, the way I felt, what I saw, and the way Leonard looked at me afterward. It wasn't just a lingering glance or a passing moment. It was constant. Every time our eyes met, there was something different in him, something I didn't want to name but couldn't ignore. I tried to bury it. When we got home that evening, I did everything I could to act normal. I made dinner, asked Leonard about school, folded laundry late into the night, my hands shaking the whole time. I kept replaying everything that happened. His hands, the way he lingered, the tension I felt in my own body. I hated myself for it. And I hated him for making me feel it, about my own son. Phoenix noticed nothing. He came home late, as usual, tie loosened, face tired. He kissed my cheek out of habit, just a ghost of what it used to be. "Long day?" I asked, hoping for some conversation. He grunted and nodded, already halfway to the living room. It was always like that. His presence felt like an afterthought, and I felt invisible again. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Phoenix snored softly beside me. The house was quiet, but my mind wasn't. I couldn't stop thinking about Leonard, his hands, his gaze. I knew it was wrong. I knew I had to stop it, whatever it was, before it went further. But there was another part of me, something dark, something lonely, that wanted to hold on, that craved the attention, the touch, the feeling of being seen. The days passed, and Leonard said nothing. But his silence spoke louder than words. He didn't avoid me, not exactly. Instead, he stayed closer. I caught him watching me when I cooked, when I cleaned, when I sat alone on the couch in the evenings. And I let him. I didn't stop him. I didn't stop myself. Then came the following weekend. It was hot again, and the house felt stifling. Phoenix was off at work, pulling another late shift, leaving me alone with Leonard, just like before. I asked him if he wanted to go back to the beach, just the two of us. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought getting out would clear my head. Maybe I wanted to test myself, see if I could push it all away. The drive was quiet this time. Leonard didn't put in his earbuds, though. He just sat there, staring out the window, his knee bouncing nervously. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the silence. But every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck in my throat. When we arrived at the beach, it was nearly deserted. I remember how blue the water was, how nice the breeze felt on my face. I spread out the towels again, like before, and Leonard helped set everything up. I didn't ask him to rub oil on my back this time. I couldn't. Instead, I lay there, eyes closed, pretending everything was fine. But even with my eyes shut, I could feel him. I could feel him watching me. The real breaking point came later that afternoon. We decided to rinse off at the beach showers before heading home, just to wash the sand off. But something happened then, something I still can't explain. When we reached the showers, Leonard went first, letting the water run down his back. I stood to the side, watching him for a moment before slipping in beside him. I don't know what came over me, but I took off my outer clothes and stood next to him, the cool water against my skin. Leonard looked at me surprised. I don't know if it was surprise, confusion, or something else, but he didn't say a word. I looked at him, really looked, and said, "You should take off your shorts too. You need to rinse properly." I don't know why I said it. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that I could control it, that I could stop it. Or maybe I was testing him, testing myself. He hesitated for a second, then did as I said, removing his shorts. And there we were, together, alone, water cascading over us, nothing but what we both felt. I turned my back to him and said softly, "Help me with my back." And he did. His hands were cautious again, just like before. But there was no denying the tension. I felt it in him. I felt it in me. When he touched my waist, I froze. The air seemed to thicken around us, the sound of the water drowning out everything else. I could have pulled away. I could have stopped him. But instead, I leaned back closer to him. I grabbed his hands and guided them to my chest. And when I did, he didn't pull away. What happened next, I can't explain. I won't explain it. It was a moment, a blur of need, loneliness, and something else I don't want to name. It wasn't gentle, and it wasn't slow. It was desperate, passionate, wrong in every way. But I couldn't stop it. I didn't want to. And when it was over, we stood there, water still running over us, the world fading but not the truth. He held me then, held me like no one had in years. And I let him. Afterward, we didn't speak. We dried off, packed up, and walked back to the car in silence. I glanced at Leonard out of the corner of my eye, his face flushed, his movement stiff. I knew I'd ruined everything. I knew we'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And yet, for the first time in years, I felt alive. The drive home was silent at first. The car felt too small, too heavy, as if the air itself weighed on us. I gripped the wheel, trying to focus on the road, but my mind swirled. I could still feel Leonard, his hands, his body, the weight of what we'd just done. I kept stealing glances at him in the passenger seat. He sat rigid, staring out the window, his face flushed, jaw clenched. And then, out of nowhere, he spoke. "Mom," he said, his voice low, almost uncertain. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. But I heard him. What happened back there? My heart skipped a beat. For a moment, I thought about pretending I hadn't heard, brushing it off, changing the subject. But there was no point in pretending anymore, not after what we'd done. I took a shaky breath and replied, "I don't know." It was the truth, or at least, the closest thing to it. I didn't know what had happened or why. All I knew was that everything had changed. We were both so quiet after that, sitting there in the dark. I thought that would be it, that we'd go home, try to forget, and pretend nothing had happened. But Leonard had other ideas. Before I could open the car door, he leaned in and kissed me. It started hesitant, like he was afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. I let him kiss me, and I kissed him back, and then I lost control. I don't know if it was the loneliness, the years of neglect, or the way Leonard looked at me, like no one had in so long, but I let it happen. right there outside our house. Leonard pulled me toward him, his hands sliding over me as if they belonged there. I felt alive. I felt desired. I felt seen for the first time in years. I didn't care about anything else. I don't know how long we stayed like that, tangled together. But eventually we went inside. I don't remember much of the walk to the door, just the feel of his hand in mine, the silence between us buzzing like electricity. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Once inside, everything intensified, as if we'd been holding back too long and the dam had finally broken. The days that followed were a blur. Leonard stayed close to me, always finding reasons to brush against me or look at me when no one else was watching. I told myself to stop, to pull away, to end it all. But every time I looked at him, I saw the same loneliness. I felt it. It was like we were mirrors of each other, reflecting the same need, the same emptiness. And I couldn't say no. I didn't want to. At night, I lay in bed next to Phoenix, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of his breathing. I thought about Leonard in the next room, about how his hands felt, about how he made me feel alive again. And then I closed my eyes, guilt coiling in my chest like a snake. I knew it couldn't last. I knew it was wrong. But I couldn't stop. The tension between us grew stronger each day until it finally exploded. It was late one evening. Phoenix was at work again, Isa was asleep, and Leonard and I were in the kitchen. I was doing the dishes, trying to distract myself from everything, when I felt him behind me. I turned, and there he was, looking at me the same way he had on the beach. "Leonard," I said softly, trying to warn him. But he didn't stop. He stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath on my neck. "Mom," he whispered, "I can't stop thinking about you." I froze. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. I wanted to tell him to stop, to go back to his room, to leave me alone. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at him and said the one thing I shouldn't have: "I can't stop either." And that was it. That was the moment everything crumbled. Leonard kissed me again, harder this time, desperate. And I kissed him back. I didn't care that it was wrong. I didn't care about Phoenix or Isa or the life we'd built. All that mattered was him, Leonard, my son, the only person who made me feel like I mattered. Things have never been normal since that day on the beach. In fact, I'm not sure they ever will be again. Leonard and I crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, no matter how much I try to convince myself otherwise. What started as a moment turned into something I can't control. The guilt is there, heavy, constant, but it doesn't stop me. And that's the part that scares me the most. I look at my husband, Phoenix, and my daughter every day and wonder how he doesn't see it, how he doesn't notice the cracks spreading through our family. Maybe they're too wrapped up in their own lives to see me slipping. Or maybe I've gotten better at hiding it. But deep down, I know it can't last forever. Secrets have a way of coming out, and when they do, the fallout will destroy everything. I've tried to stop. I've told myself over and over that it's wrong, that Leonard deserves better, that I deserve better. But every time he touches me, every time he looks at me like I'm the only person in the world, I lose myself. He makes me